guys, so today we're going to be going over how I made this stop motion video. One big point that I do want to make is basically you don't need some big studio to do things like this. I did this in my cluttered little office in my house, and honestly it's kind of embarrassing to even show the behind the scenes because I didn't organize my office beforehand, but that's also just showing the more realistic side of it to where you can just use little spaces. And it's not only product shoots that you can just use any space you have, really. I mean, you could take headshots in smaller spaces. You're definitely able to work with what you have. Of course, it'd be nice to have a huge studio space always available to you and things like that, but that's not always the case. I'm going to be showing you how I set up the scene. I'm also going to be showing you how I edited it. Okay, anyways, I'm going to show you start to finish what I did. So here is how I made this stop motion video. Okay, so basically here's my little office in my house. So one of the brand colors for Chef Tanya's vegan kitchen is yellow. So I went ahead and went with a yellow background, and that way it'll make it pop even more. And I'm using my Canon R6. And I just had one flash. Since I do have the flash on one side of the mug, I wanted the other side of the mug to be just as well lit. So I went ahead and put a reflector on the other side of the mug, and that helped a lot. There is shot one, which is just the mug. And here's setting up the second shot. And I did have to do some adjustments to the mug here and there. And yeah, basically with each shot, you just move each item up like it's really coming out of the mug. With each shot, I was rotating the mug just a little bit. And I had wedged a little piece of paper under the mug so it would actually turn and stay in place. So here's my camera set up and my flash that I was using. And that is how I photographed all the shots. All right, so let's go ahead and pull up Lightroom. All right, so we're gonna import the pictures that we took. And if you don't have it already, you can get the photography bundle in Adobe that comes with Lightroom and Photoshop for only $9.99 a month. So it's pretty cheap to have both of those things. So this stop motion was for a restaurant called Chef Tanya's Kitchen, and they're in Palm Springs. So I just selected them and rotated them all. Okay, so here's our starting shot. And you can kind of see over here is kind of dark. This first one, I'm gonna go up to the masking and the brush tool. Make that brush bigger. I'm just kind of gonna brush like the dark edges here and just kind of up that exposure and maybe the shadows too. So I think this looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy all of those settings over to the other photos. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that first photo that I made all the edits to. And then I'm gonna hold down Control and click all the other photos here. And then I'm gonna go up to Settings and Sync Settings. And you're gonna wanna make sure that the masking, these are all the masks that I put on this to brighten up those edges. Okay, everything else looks good. So I'm gonna synchronize those settings. You know, I tried my best to get rid of any like little pieces of things, but I see here, like right here, that's something we need to take care of. Like pieces of the fruits and vegetables, but I still see some that need taken care of. So we are going to do that. So one mistake I did make on this one was I didn't up my f-stop enough. So you can see like I had this in focus, but some of the vegetables are not all the way in focus. And this wasn't a paid job or anything. This was just for me to practice. So I highly suggest, you know, doing a few practice ones so you'll actually catch things that you should have changed and you'll learn from that before you actually take on like paid jobs for these. So that is one thing that I completely forgot to do was up the f-stop. And basically, you'll just adjust the lighting and everything on how you think it looks best. And of course, especially with stop motion, you want to be sure that you're getting it pretty close to how you want it, especially as far as like cropping and things like that, because you want it to look like the items are actually just moving on their own seamlessly. So you don't want it to look all clunky, like different crops and different lighting in each one. So you definitely want to make sure that you're getting that right, or as close to right as possible in the actual shot. Okay, so now we are gonna open Adobe Premiere. You do have to pay extra per month for Adobe Premiere, but there's also just some like free phone apps and stuff that you can easily just edit these photos with. Like let's say you have Lightroom and Photoshop already, but you don't have Adobe Premiere because maybe you're doing photography right now, but you haven't done any video, so you have zero need for Premiere. So one app that I really like to use, and it is called InShot. And I do have Android. I don't know if this is an app on Apple as well, but it's a great little video editor. So if you just edit these photos in like Lightroom and you just put together the actual stop motion video on your phone, that will work totally fine too. You do not need to go out and pay for Adobe Premiere. Okay, so I've imported all my photos into Premiere. They imported in the backwards order, so I'm just gonna drag each picture one by one over to the timeline. So of course they drag over to the timeline pretty long. So I just select them all and I right click and click speed/duration. And it popped up on my other screen. I didn't even pay attention that it wasn't on the screen I was actually recording, but a little dialog box pops up and I changed the numbers to 0.05. And of course that shortens them up a bunch. And then I just right click in between each gap and click ripple delete. And it'll just delete the gaps in between them. All right, so we want to make the last two pictures go back and forth to look like they're kind of moving back and forth a little bit on the final edit. So I'm just gonna select the last two shots, copy, and then paste them on the timeline. And I'm gonna do that a couple different times, just so they'll go back and forth multiple times, just like that. You can see there that they go back and forth pretty quick. I wanted to slow that down just a little bit. I selected the clips at the end that's doing the little movements, and I'm just gonna click the speed duration again and change it to 0.07. So I'm just gonna click on each clip and change the speed to 0.07. And these aren't hard numbers that I always go by. It's just kind of a starting point for me. So depending on what kind of stop motion you make, you might want to make it a little faster, a little slower. It just depends what you're making. And that looks more like the speed I want the ending to go. Okay, so I want the effect of all of the vegetables and fruit going back into the mug. So all I'm gonna do is select the first clips where all of the food is coming out of the mug. I'm gonna select those clips, copy and paste them at the end of the timeline. So I'm just gonna put each clip in the reverse order it was at the beginning of the video. Okay, my computer's being slow and it's skipping, but I think that looks okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and export it. So you just go up to File and Export and just save it wherever you want to save it. And here is the final video. Okay, so that is how I made that stop motion video. It does take a little bit of time to make, but overall, it's such a unique thing to be able to add to your portfolio, because anytime I see like stop motion photography and ads and things, it always makes me just stop my scroll and just watch it. So it's such a great thing to add to your portfolio. So that's how I made it, and let me know if you have any questions about it or anything like that, and I will see you guys in the next video.